This is Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast, episode number 171. Today, our special guest is Matthew Mawby, co-founder of StaffHealth. We talk about healthcare's major challenge of staffing, and we hear the perspective of those that serve in traveler and agency roles. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast. This is the only podcast that shows you how to leverage polarity intelligence, an essential competency for healthcare leaders, and the missing logic in healthcare, so you can create healthy, healing organizations and become a thriving, resilient, and unstoppable healthcare leader.
We are your hosts, Tracy Christofferson and Michelle Trosett. We've been best friends and colleagues for over 30 years. And during that time, we coached healthcare leaders across North America around how to create healthy, healing organizations.
Today, we coach healthcare leaders and leadership teams to live thriving, resilient, and balanced lives, combat burnout, and create the best places to give and receive care.
This podcast is for the unsung hero of healthcare, the healthcare leader. We want you to know we see you and we'll be here for you each week. In this podcast, we're going to challenge healthcare's industry norms, flip limiting beliefs, and share proven strategies so you can be your best self at work and at home, live and lead intentionally, and experience well-being and joy.
We are glad you are here and look forward to sharing the journey with you. If you aren't totally convinced this podcast is for you, just listen to a few episodes and convince yourself.
Welcome, everybody. It's another episode of Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast, and I am Tracy.
And I am Michelle.
And here we are again.
Here we are again.
I think if Travis had $100 for every time we said that, he'd be a rich man.
I think so, too. One of these times we'll have Travis open it up.
Oh, yeah.
I think we should change it up a little bit.
He's the magician behind the scenes here.
That's right. Mm-hmm. That's right.
I think we should. Uh-oh. Well, it's just another fun episode in the podcast studio today. You know, we are so fortunate. We get to meet so many people.
We do.
You know, and they're just really great people.
Yeah. Yeah. And today we had a very special guest, Matthew Mawby, and his story is fascinating. And what he does is really, really important in healthcare. And he brings us a very unique perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. So today, you know, we're getting some insights into some of the experiences of traveling nurses, healthcare agency nurses, you know, that work per diem or they travel across the country and take assignments. And we've been hearing a lot from healthcare organizations because that's our primary connection to healthcare leaders.
Right.
So we hear quite a bit of that side of what's happening when it comes to, you know, leveraging the use of agency staff or traveling nurses. And so we thought, hey, let's go out and hear the other side.
And we did. And he really brought the perspective of his team. We had some great dialogue of how things need to change in healthcare because of many, many things changing. And I thought it was a great conversation.
Oh, it was. It was really fun. And Matthew did a great job. So without further ado, I am going to introduce you to Matthew. And Matthew Mawby is the co-founder of StaffHealth. He's actually a graduate of the University of Florida and has over 10 years experience in healthcare staffing. He went through nursing school before deciding to head into a career in staffing. So he's actually a nurse as well. And Matthew's passion for the industry can be traced back to his childhood, which he shares a little bit about that in our interview. And his mission is to connect passionate and skilled healthcare workers with facilities who need great patient care. So without further ado, here's our interview with Matthew Mawby.
Well, welcome, Matthew, to Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast. We are excited today has finally arrived.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, we are too. We thought we'd start out and tell our listeners a little bit about why we're having you on our show today. So for all of our listeners, we've been talking to Matthew for a little while now, and you're going to learn why. His work is about staffing in healthcare, and it's been a pretty major topic, certainly for the last couple of years. And there's a lot of complexities to it. And so to today's show, we're going to bring some of the things that Tracy and I have been hearing from working with healthcare leaders, and then also some of the perspectives of the traveling and agency clinicians and providers that are out there. And so we've been preparing for this conversation today, and we're just so excited that the day has come where we can do this podcast interview.
Yeah. I think it's a great opportunity. We're kind of the both and people. So we want to, be able to make sure we're hearing the voices of all, right?
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So to get us started, Matthew, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about your background and how did you become a co-founder of a healthcare staffing company in the first place?
Yes, thank you for having me today, and I'm excited to chat. My healthcare experience started at a very young age. I have a younger brother who's handicapped and needed a lot of care throughout life. He's already undergone 80 operations, I believe. He's still, handicapped, still needs daily care. So from a very young age, I understood, and I was forced to understand, I guess, right? The impression and the willingness and capacity and what nurses do for not only the patient, but for the families of the patient, and just how crucial their role is in a healthcare facility. I know we hear a lot about doctors and this and that and surgeons and there's CNAs and LPNs and RNs that are really the driving force of everything, within the facility. They all work hand in hand, but it's just a crucial space. And, I had a chance to go into the nursing field myself. I went through nursing school, didn't practice nursing for long. But I knew the business side pretty well. And when I was going through that, I really learned, I guess, or saw and witnessed just a disconnect, per se, in the staffing side of things inside healthcare facilities. For the most part, the obvious part was everyone was stressed out, especially when it came to staffing. This is way pre-pandemic. So the staffing shortages have been going on for quite some time. But when you're missing one nurse in a facility, it really changes the whole dynamic of healthcare, patient care, and safety ratios within the facility. I quickly learned that, and one of my goals ever since has been, a mission of mine is because I'm very passionate about this space and passionate about proper healthcare and safety. Is I wanted to bridge that gap. I wanted to find a solution in modern day. Using technology, innovations, and quality nurses to really bridge that gap from healthcare facilities to staffing and get that burden off of the administration side and facility staff and deliver quality healthcare for patients. And I'm here now.
There you go. Wow. All right. Wow. Living your mission, huh?
Hey, that's the best of both worlds right there.
That's right. That's right. It is. And, I think it's pretty safe to say that staffing, traveling practitioners, agency practitioners certainly filled a critical need over the last 3 years when it comes to providing that quality care, right? So many hospitals would have never been able to meet the needs during the pandemic without staffing and agency help. So I think, hats off to what you're doing and other agencies are doing to fill that need and that gap. And we know staffing is a problem. It has always been a problem in healthcare. It will always be a problem. We know what we talk about are, the things underneath that are polarities, right? Like the recruitment and retention of quality staff, right, to help fill those gaps. We also know that we've been talking with leaders and clinicians about some of the challenges that have come up as a result of having to have so many individuals from agency or travelers, right? And mostly from that kind of staffing perspective inside the healthcare organization. And some of the challenges with the high prices, right, for agency staff and traveling staff, also kind of competing for resources locally and nationally, like within their own, within their own environments and then outside. And then some people leaving long-term positions within the organizations to take advantage of the opportunity to travel and the financial support that can offer their families, especially after, during, and after the pandemic, right? To meet their own personal needs. And so I just wondered kind of what are your perspectives coming from the agency side of things on those challenges that healthcare organizations have faced as a result of using individuals from companies like yours?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great, solid question. And, it needs to be addressed on a few different levels too for everyone. And you're correct. I agree 100% that there's always been a staffing shortage. It's always there. It's actually way worse now. Obviously, the past couple of years, we all get that. But what we're really seeing here in the healthcare space is what I like to call a shift. It's almost a shift in the healthcare industry. Mm-hmm. In particular, what we're talking about now, which is staffing, the staffing side of things. And a wrench was thrown in that from the pandemic. And, we weren't prepared for that as a healthcare system. Yes. Here, probably globally too, but speaking about in America here. But, it's been challenging on all sides to get people staffed. And, one thing that we've learned from this is that we need to listen to the nurses, right? The nurses are there. They have needs. They have issues. They have a personal life. They have children at home. They have families at home. They're real people, just like me and you. Money is a driving force for them as well. We get that, right? Just like everybody has to pay their bills. So we would like to find a way to meet in the middle and try to find a solution together to, once again, I'm going to use that term, bridge the gap, right? Bridge that gap from healthcare facility to staffing. Now, as we listen to the nurses and we're looking at the shift in the industry, what can we do? Or, how can we help? We always say that too. How can we assist the facilities? I understand that, staffing agencies in general are considered a premium rate. We can start with that, right? But what goes into that rate? We ask ourselves, hey, who's breaking down this rate? Who's saying this? Who's where does it really meet in the middle, right? So there's actually a great research project and report that was out this year by IntelliCare. Wow. They did a cost analysis on hiring their own permanent staff versus using maybe an outside source of some form. And what they found was that when you add in all of those expenses, I mean, I'm talking retirement, PTO, onboarding, credentialing, recruiting, retaining, onboard. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Yeah. It actually turns out that it's actually more expensive to have these, for healthcare facilities, to have a team that can do this and chase these people and get them on board, get them going. Are they a good fit? Are they a good cultural fit? Big issue. We could talk about that as well, because you have a lot of these travelers coming into facilities that they've never been to, which is a whole nother topic, right? But just from these numbers, 33% more expensive to hire an RN permanently, 14% for an LPN, and 26% for a CNA. So just to bridge that gap, as coming from the side of an agency, I guess, side, is that we have the team, right? We have the team that can recruit all day, that can vet all day, that can find a good fit for your facility, who can so on and so forth. And we have the means to do that. Posting jobs, there's a lot of marketing that goes in, and it would be great to meet in the middle in terms of, hey, let's work together. And use it as a cost-effective approach, and to really, really getting the right people into these healthcare facilities and keep them working.
Yeah. I love that. Meet in the middle.
Yeah.
Right? Like there is a give and take around this, right? And I love, that people are starting to study it. There are some obvious benefits, right? And I think sometimes we just look at what we can see in front of us. So I just really appreciate you being here today to help us see things kind of under the hood, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah,
Exactly.
And meeting in the middle, what is a cost-effective method, right, for staffing, and everything is shifting, right? So we can't always assume that what was is what needs to be going forward into the future, or it will continue, right? So I think your willingness to really step back and say, how do we come together to do this in a cost-effective way so that you have what you need, the patients have what they need, we're serving the individuals in their personal lives and their needs as well, right?
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. And you have to be able to be flexible. That's one thing we all have learned about staffing. So it kind of provides you with that, with that consistency of the staff within the organization, but then also bringing in extra, staffing agencies, travelers, and it gives everybody it's that dynamic balance, Tracy and I'll talk about. It's never all the same. You have to be able to move with it and really meet the needs of the community, the patients, and the organization. So that's really great.
Well, we've always used additional staffing options, right?
Yes.
I think what really, it's just the amount that people have had to use, right? The high volume of additional staff that have had to be leveraged. That's really kind of brought this to light, right? Brought this to light. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the stress. I mean, these nurses are under stress, right? And they're working short-staffed, and their work-life balance is off. How do we? And I ask this as almost a rhetorical question, but how do we bring the passion of nursing back? I think about that constantly, daily. Nurses, and what we'll get to in a few minutes here about some of the nurses that we were able to speak with, but they're all caregivers. They have a passion that is almost the same or larger than a paycheck. To live their lives and help people, and we want to continue that. And have that in every facility, no matter where you're at.
Sure,
very important.
Exactly. Yep. Well, Tracy, I just want to thank you, Matthew, for facilitating a survey of your team in preparation for our interview, because we've been listening a lot to healthcare organizations and to leaders about many of the things that you talked about, Tracy. But also some other things that have come up is just, do they care as much because they're not from our community? It's because there was so many of them, it made some people feel a little bit uncomfortable, and they wondered about that. And then at the same time, they were very relieved to have support and having people show up to help at the same time, right? So what we did, everyone, was we asked some key questions to Matthew's traveling and agency providers, and we're going to share those with you, but why don't you tell us a little bit first about the demographics of who took the survey?
Yeah, so the demographics, it's a mix between RNs, LPNs or LVNs, and CNAs. And it was mostly targeted in about, I would say, a lot of the Southeast, a lot of Texas, Colorado, and California would probably be the main spots for that geography-wise. Which we thought would give a pretty good mix of different areas and different parts, of the United States for this survey to kind of see, what are those differentiating viewpoints? Is it change? Is it the same? Does it remain consistent? And that's kind of what we drew from. And I think we got some great responses and some really, honest feedback. And that's what we wanted to do. And it was great.
Yeah.
Right. So the first question that we wanted to know was, what are you most proud of in your delivery of care experiences? Now, these are, RNs, LPNs, aides that actually step into environments where they're not familiar. It may not be in the area that they even live in. And so in those situations, what are you most proud of in your care delivery experiences? And some of the things that really jumped out at us in the survey were just the new challenges, and that underlying serving was still there. I'm here to serve, making a difference. And I was amazed how many people responded with, it's just seeing the smile on my patient's face. I'm always most proud of that. Bringing my years of experience and the quality of services that I'm able to deliver. So those are some of the things that came from the survey. And I just was really, it warmed my heart to see some of those responses. And I think they're no different than pretty much every provider that we've worked with.
Well, and I think it gets back to that, question some people had about, are they as committed as I am to the care of the people in my community? And I think what this brings forth, and again, this is not like a hugely broad survey across the United States, so we're just bringing forth some perspectives. But I think what it speaks to is, I have that passion, like you said. I have the same passion you have for caring for these people, to make sure that they're having a good experience and to doing my very best when I'm with them. And I don't know that anybody questions that, but right. I think it's just good to hear that from people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so wonderful to hear that. And it was consistent across the board. Yeah. It just shows that, these nurses they're passionate people. They really are. And they want to see that smile. They want to know that they made a difference in what they're doing today, regardless of where it's at, technically. Right.
Right.
It's good to see.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And I think we can make assumptions.
Oh,
right.
Yes.
I think we can make assumptions that they're in it for the money.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, people can make assumptions about that because they get paid quite a bit more, right? We know that that is a differentiator between those that are, at the bedside and working for healthcare organizations and those that are coming in. And as you mentioned, there's a lot that goes into those numbers. But that could be an assumption. I think this helps for me, it helps to say, that can be a false assumption in many cases.
Yeah, it could. Yeah, could be. And I guess a bigger question, maybe for another time, is what is that cost, right? Like, what does that pay amount to? And I think that's what we're also tackling as an industry as we go through this shift. Is proper wages. What's too high? What's too low? Let's once again meet in the middle, make people happy. It goes into a whole different slew of questions, right?
It does.
Yeah.
And we don't have the answers to those today.
Well, it's ongoing, right?
Saying.
It's ongoing.
It's ongoing. It really is. But I agree. I think it's wonderful to hear that, that's what they're proud of and that's what they feel they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So the other thing we asked about were the struggles they experienced. Now, I think it's really important to say many people said, I haven't had any struggles. So that was good to hear too, huh?
Yeah, I was shocked about that one. I know this field pretty well. So it was good to see, but a lot of these things are a normal day for these people. But let's see what kind of responses did we get from this one?
Yeah, so some of them said some of the same struggles that the clinicians are having, right? Yes. Which is lack of supplies, being short-staffed, because when you're working in that environment, that short staffing doesn't just impact the people that are employees, it impacts the agency people too, right? Because we're all here on the shift trying to see all these patients and get the work done. So those were common things, I think, that they share as struggles with those that are fully employed. Gas prices at the time we did the survey, right? Everybody's worried about the gas prices. So again, it just brings back the human factor. We're all human beings. We're all sharing some of the same struggles, right? And so I think that's what I saw in that. Then there were some other struggles that were related to how they were being treated when they came into facilities. The rudeness of some individuals. They experienced rudeness from people that were full-time employees because, they felt like they weren't wanted. Some people didn't feel like they fit in to the organization. So those were some things that came up from their, from their perspective. And again, we're just sharing all the perspectives, right? So
Exactly.
for them, it's hard to come in, it sounds like, into a facility and really feel welcomed. And this is not in every case. This is just a few individuals. So.
Yeah, that's it's quite common, unfortunately. The gas prices, I mean, I get that. So that was a funny response, but let's also keep in mind that, some of these travelers, right, or some of these people, they drive a pretty long distance. In some cases, there's some rural communities out there that are they're struggling. So you got people from the inner city driving. I mean, to be honest, I've had people drive about 4 hours for one shift.
Wow.
That is just insane.
Yeah.
But, it's what they wanted to do. It's where they wanted to work. And that's what they did. They supported each other. They actually came together, which was nice, and weighed out the pros and cons.
Yeah.
The challenge within the facility and trying to be, involved in a good fit and treated equally is definitely a challenge that we see across the board.
Yeah. Well, and I think we have to remember, and we brought this up before, these individuals have been under significant stress and strain. This isn't a typical time in our world, right? And diversity, equity, and inclusion is an issue everywhere, not just with these individuals, right? And organizations are dealing with this. And I think what we want to keep in mind as we think about some of these results is that, and so just some of the comments, is that as we move forward, it's important to have a healthy work culture. And not just for the employees, but for the people coming in to help support, right? For the support staff, for the agency. You want a welcoming, inclusive environment and a healthy environment for all that come into the environment. And so, I think this is just brings awareness to that,
Yes.
I think, some of these comments.
Yeah.
We're all human.
Yeah.
That's right.
Awareness is a great choice of words for that. And, that's what we want to do too, is bring awareness for all aspects.
Yeah. And we all make choices. I think these individuals have made a choice for whatever reason. And I think you alluded to this earlier. There's lots of different reasons people choose to not be fully employed. They need the flexibility in their life, or they needed that additional income. We don't know what's happened in some of these cases, right? But we're all making choices that serve us. And it's not about judging any one person's choice. It's just like judging, well, Michelle became a nurse and I became a respiratory therapist, right?
What's wrong with you?
I know. What is wrong with me? I'm the only non-nurse, right? But we make different choices for different reasons. That's no different, right?
Yeah.
When you choose to be a nurse or a respiratory therapist or an LPN or an aide, we all choose what's working for us in our lives, but we all need each other.
We all need each other
to get to that shared purpose.
And I think it just challenges everyone to think about what are your biases, and maybe you're not even aware of them because you don't stop to think about it,
Yeah.
And you can sometimes you can get caught up in groupthink about things too. So I think it's really an opportunity to step back and look at the whole picture. What does it look like if we meet in the middle? That's really important.
Yeah. Very important.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
Well, the third question we asked is, what are you most excited about in providing care as a traveling or agency care professional? Because we really wanted to know why do you do this? We were talking in preparation, and I don't remember, Matthew, if this is the three of us or just Tracy and I. I was always amazed at working in critical care when we would have traveling nurses come in and I just knew that's something I would never do. That didn't excite me but this is what excites them. And I think it's really awesome. And some of the things they said in the survey was the recognition that they get for showing up and delivering their services. They like going to different cities and states. They're explorers, and they like being able to, on the side, meet new people, do sightseeing, and also providing care, providing for their family and better pay is also something they're excited about. Having new experiences and learning and helping patients and family, and they're excited about delivering quality care. So I think there's a certain kind of person that's also a provider and a caregiver that can show up in these different situations that it really excites them, and they're providing for their family at the same time. So tell us a little bit about what your reaction was to the answer to this particular question.
This one, I thought all answers were definitely great, and like, to your point, everyone's different. Everyone's in a different scenario, right? And I had a thought come in my head about, this is actually pre-pandemic, I believe. I had a couple nurses who, this is in California actually, who bought a van, right? And then they would just go to different facilities and live out of their van and explore California. And that's what they did. They'd have 12-week assignments here, 12-week assignments there, and they got to, travel and do that, right? Yeah. You have other people who have a family at home, right? Maybe they need the flexible schedule for their children or childcare or things like that. So, people are excited because they get to do what they love. And to be honest, they're kind of doing it on their own terms almost, right? Yeah. I mean, they're not, when you're working directly at a facility, maybe is a lot different than, I'm not even a travel position maybe, but even just PRN local work. Mm-hmm. Per diem shifts, getting to travel, getting to see different facilities and, keeping the excitement going. But it's just great to see that everybody's excited about the same thing. There's always the same end game for the most part. I'm not saying everybody. But a lot of people want to see those smiles. They want to know they made a difference. They want to be recognized. They want to help. And they want to get paid doing it, I guess, too, right?
Why not, right? Why not? I mean, you think about it, we're older than you. So, we grew up with, you hired into a company and you stayed there 30 years and then you retired, right? Yes. Life is not like that today. And I think sometimes those of us in leadership positions are from that era. Yep. It's hard to understand, right, why people would do these things. And
live in a van.
And at the same time, right, it helps these individuals have an opportunity to live in a way that energizes them. And they're probably better clinicians because of it. And I think it takes an extreme skill to be able to come into an organization and to pick up what they have to pick up, right, in a very quick rapid pace, and to integrate themselves into a culture they have not grown up in. They're not acclimated to, right? And to acclimate quickly, to fit in and to be that person that can come in and do that. I think that takes a lot of talent and skill.
I do too.
And a lot of people skills, right? Really.
Everything. Very well-rounded. It's a certain skill set that involves some sort of value system. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And to piggyback off the great words that you just said too, is technology has come so far.
Oh, yes.
That we're able to do a lot of things now that weren't able to be done, obviously, a long time ago. And that makes it just that more attractive in this space, which does add value to patient care.
Yep. Yeah, that's so true, right? And all the technologies you have to learn. Oh, my gosh. Ooh, yeah. All right. So the last question we asked was, what are you concerned about in providing the delivery of care? And so some of the comments that we got, not unusual to hear, catching COVID-19 or any unknown variant, right? Like any healthcare clinician probably has that concern these days. Again, being understaffed, lack of resources and supplies, same challenges that many of the full-time employees in healthcare organizations have. Again, last-minute cancellations. Now, that's a big thing, right, for these individuals, because some of them rely on, their scheduled hours. Some of them it's built in, right, where they don't get canceled first, but some of them do because of saving money and those types of things. So, where an employee, has a little bit different, safety net around that. Sometimes these individuals don't have that same safety net. So that's something they're concerned about. In addition, are, again, being shunned, not welcomed, not accepted, lack of teamwork and insufficient training. So not being prepared to step into the assignments that they have. And again, some had no concerns at all, right? So you've got some that haven't had these experiences and others that have. So this isn't a blanket across the, country experience, but they are experiences that I think deserve a voice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I 100% agree. Training, these nurses got to hit the ground running. You mentioned something that I want to touch on, the shift cancellations. We see that a lot. And as of right now, it's very hard to avoid those, right? Because as an outside source, all we want to do, or I speak we, but the people on this side, is we want to be an extension of the facility. We don't want to hurt the facility. We don't want to do anything that's, going to put them backwards or cause stress. We just want to be an extension to help, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when a shift gets canceled per se, we're the agency outside help's the first to go. We understand that. Mm-hmm. Our staff usually, quote unquote, understands that.
Yeah.
And that just goes back to hey, we're not here to take every shift or to cost you extra money or anything like that. We want patient care in your building. We want proper patient care. Safety ratios up so that everybody gets good quality care. And once again, that's meeting in the middle, right?
Right.
And but they're all valid points. I think a lot of teamwork being shunned. That's kind of what we touched on a little bit earlier too.
Yeah.
But it comes up again in this response as well. So you can tell that it's definitely something that is affecting certain individuals in this field.
Right. Yeah. And I think it just, it gets back to the healthy work culture, understanding how to have healthy relationships with each other, those kind of meaningful conversations, right? Getting to know each other as people, right? Humanizing the work culture. Those are all things to be thinking about as we move forward in these new times, right? Because we've had a lot of challenges. We've all faced a lot of challenges. And again, these individuals working in the organizations are under a tremendous amount of stress. And I think, again, it also just kind of brings out, while, the higher level of pay looks really good, it also comes with risks. And that is that you're going to get canceled, right?
That's right.
It's not just, all flowers, right? I guess is what I want to say. They're taking risks by, working in that manner, right? And making that choice. And again, they go in with their eyes wide open about what those risks are. But when you're not working in that world, you don't recognize maybe or aren't aware of all the risks that are associated for those individuals to make that choice. So I think it helps to know that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm going to keep using the term to fill the gap, right? Bridge that gap, meet in the middle. And hopefully, that'll happen where some of those pros and cons, right? There's pros and cons to both sides. To really kind of minimize those as much as possible and work together would be such a blessing. And it'd be great just for healthcare in general for staff.
So. Right.
Well, and in polarity language, there's positive outcomes for both sides. And there's also negative outcomes if we're not paying attention to how well we're balancing this and trying to meet for that greater purpose. Yeah. And I think the key things, and what I loved about asking directly from the people on the ground delivering the services is, on both sides, we have to learn from what we just went through. That's, again, one of the reasons we wanted to have you on. Like, what did we learn during this particular period of time that we can move forward in healthcare, we can make different decisions and do things differently. Which brings me to the next question, Matthew, because we're starting to see more shifts. The trend we're seeing is now more and more organizations are intentionally decreasing the amount of outside staffing support because of all the financial burdens that are now emerging in healthcare as a result of the pandemic. And so they're trying to control things a little bit more. And so we're seeing that decrease. And we also know, staffing's always going to be challenging. So what would you like to see as a model to support both the healthcare organizations and their staff and the traveling agency staff some kind of model that is more sustainable? You keep saying meeting together, but the bridge. What does a bridge model look like that's sustainable? Have you given any thought to that?
Yeah, we have, we're always looking for ways, and not just us, but, the industry, and ways to be more innovative, right? And to really, to make it so both sides win, or maybe, to your point, we went through, it's kind of sad to say, but sometimes we have to go through something really catastrophic to really uncover what's going on, right? Find new solutions. And as much as there was just, terrible things that came along with the pandemic, we try to look at the good, right? What went wrong? How can we protect that? How can we make it better? Let's make a change, and let's change with these times. And we keep referring back to technology and being innovative and, utilizing resources. We mentioned that we're using the same resources sometimes, right? Outside agencies, tap into local candidates, which the facilities tap into local candidates as well, right? So there's a mix there. We're overlapping. So, what I find, it always reverts back to this, is most healthcare facilities, and I say most, don't have the high budgets, to your points about, people, trying to be cost effective. I would say about 90% of healthcare facilities, some are mom and pop places like nursing homes, post-acute rehabilitation centers. They're not offering the $20,000 sign-on bonuses, right? Or these astronomical numbers that you hear. So how can we really put our scope into that 90%, right? That chunk, that big, large majority that has issues with budgeting and things like that. And those places usually don't have a corporate recruiting team, right? They don't have a team of people doing all the vetting and all the credentialing and all the onboarding. They may have a small HR department, but it takes, I think last time I checked, it's taken about 60 to 90 days to hire a full staff employee as a nurse into a full-time facility. So when we talk about meeting in the middle, using technology on our side to really be, help, like having companies, like outside sources, such as ourselves or other places that have the means to this, that can work directly with facilities at a cost-effective approach, right? As well. It's crucial in this. And to make it to where we're actually, think of like a water pump, pumping water, right? We're pumping water. We want to pump nurses into the system. We want to get nurses excited, passionate, proper pay, proper flexible schedules if that's what they want. We offer same day pay now, different things of getting paid faster. A lot of these CNAs and LPNs, some of them live paycheck to paycheck, so it's important to them. So we're trying to get all the needs, right? What are the new needs? What are the modern needs, we can say? What are nurses? What do they want? Let's listen to them and come up with a solution to offer them what they need, right? And I'm not here to like say what facilities aren't doing or healthcare systems aren't doing, because I don't know, right? Technically, I don't. But, I know it is very hard for big, large systems to do same day pays and to offer flexible schedules and to have the technology to do all that stuff, right? So how can we incorporate that and really make it flow smoother to where, these facilities are fully staffed with also keeping the needs and wants of the nurses and keeping them happy? Because, if the nurses are happy and, they're going to, this is just a biased opinion of mine. If they're happy, they're going to provide better quality of care.
Sure.
I truly believe in that.
Yeah. Oh, well, we do too. Right. Yeah. And it gets back to that recruiting and retaining. And you need to, that, which is the underlying polarity that sits underneath this whole staffing thing. Right. And it's about, if you have a culture that is the best place to give and receive care, patients are going to flow to you and staff will never leave. Right. Yeah. They'll be there long term, right? They will want to work there. They will refer people to work there. Travelers, agency individuals will want to come and deliver services there as well, right? So it's really creating that place that has, as you said, they have quality, cost-effective care, right? Everything in the system is designed to be that best place to give and receive care, regardless of whether it's the full-time employees or individuals that are coming in to supplement when necessary, right? Or even as a part of the ongoing needs of the organization. So,
yeah, and we've had, I mean, you both know as well, we've had float pools in the past. I mean, I think, for as long as I can remember, there's always been some sort of float pool, right, at a hospital or something like that. But those are becoming dried up as well. And, there's a new system of that shift that we were talking about that you brought up earlier, too, is the age gap in some cases.
Yeah.
That, not only do we have the nursing shortage on just people being burnt out, stressed out, post-pandemic, things like that, but we have baby boomers. We have a massive amount of nurses retiring, early retirement and retirement before 2030. So you're talking a whole new class, we can call it, of nurses coming in that have different expectations, different values, different, growing up on technology, right?
Yeah.
They're probably operating an iPhone when they're born. Hey,
Pretty much these days.
It's going to show up in the ultrasound pretty soon.
We're looking at ultrasounds, and learning. Let's face it, we're facing a totally different group. And, it's exciting and challenging at the same time.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that we gotta kind of adjust, right? We gotta shift, and we have to, find out what these new needs are, uncover what's happening, the pros, cons, as you both mentioned, which are crucial, and the polarity, right? What are we doing here, even as humans, right? We're all humans, and I think everything that we've learned from the pandemic, this is a start to that, and that's exciting and promising at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a whole new generation, right? And to your point, the more mature clinicians are retiring. There's difficulty in getting the classes filled, right, in nursing schools with new nurses. And some of that may be because of some of these elements, right? They have different expectations. They want different options. And so that, that's something that has to be paid attention to. And it is exciting, right? It's exciting. And it can catapult us into a whole different way of delivering care and supporting the staffing of healthcare organizations. So I really appreciate you bringing that.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been a fun conversation. And now we're in the missing questions. Okay. So here we go. Now,
all right.
You're going to do just fine. For our audience, our guests don't know what we're going to ask them. So there's a little edge to this, but it's just a way for them to get to know you as a person. It's all about the human element, right?
That's right.
And so I'm going to ask you a couple questions, and Michelle's going to do the wrap up question. But the first one, now I know you're going to really have to think about this. What is your favorite sport and why?
Favorite sport? Can I answer two? Can I answer two answers to this one? Okay.
Sure.
I just made up my own rule. Okay.
That's right. There are no rules. You go for it.
Favorite sport? Probably soccer, because I grew up playing soccer. I played all the way competitively, throughout my school career too. So I did learn a lot of discipline, and there's so many factors that actually came from playing a sport at a very young age competitively that I took into my professional career. And just in terms of relationships in general. But I am a big football fan. I'll represent. I went to University of Florida, so I am biased. I am a Florida Gator.
Gator.
I might stir up some chaos, but I love watching college football, and I love following players. So I do love sports, though, in general.
That's great.
That's great.
And golf.
Notice the little...
I see your little football helmet.
That's three. Yeah, we see your football helmet in the back.
All right. Here's the next one. And that is, what was the last in-theater movie you saw?
I just saw Top Gun.
Maverick.
Yes, Top Gun Maverick. It's been, 3 years since I went to the movie. My dad is a defense contractor for the Department of Defense for some fighter planes. So I grew up watching Top Gun. They used to put me to bed to it back in the 80s, right? So to see this come out, I loved it. It was great. So anyone who hasn't seen it, I recommend it. 5 stars for me.
Good for you.
That's great. Yeah, it was an awesome movie. Okay, here's the last wrap-up question, Matthew. So as you know, we teach leaders polarity intelligence and how to think both and, which we've been talking about throughout this interview. But one of the principles of polarity is that everyone has a preference pole. We can recognize both are important, but we do tend to have a preference pole. So I am going to ask you a question. I'm going to present a polarity, and we want you to tell us what your preference pole is. And the polarity is competition and collaboration.
You see, I'm such a competitive person too.
It's okay.
That's okay.
But this is the thing. If you have to have collaboration. I mean, you have to. I mean, if you're not collaborating and, even just as far as working together and really bringing in different points to meet an end goal, I think they go hand in hand, to be honest with you. But I am a competitive person at nature, just from being in sports and all that. But I'm also a team player. I'm also, I run a fairly large team here. We have about 200 employees, and everything that you mentioned about polarity and even just the human element is so crucial. Yeah. And getting everyone on the same page and working together and seeing things flourish is just something that it's rewarding. Yeah. Put it that way.
Yeah.
But I think they go hand in hand, though. So,
well, you're right. They do go hand in hand.
It's a polarity.
It's a polarity. But the reason we always say it's important to know your preference pole is because, number one, that's where you tend to go to. So you have to pay maybe extra attention to the other pole. And then you may have blind spots in some polarities. Some polarities aren't as obvious to some people as other polarities. So it's just good to know. I think from our interview and the time Tracy and I've spent with you, we know that you really see the benefit of both. But we're not surprised that the competitive maybe is more your...
Well, I was competitive at a young age, but the collaboration and that side, I think, was learned over time.
Sure.
Right?
And
I had to use that in my professional life and building relationships and having a family and things like that. But I'm interested to know your thoughts on that, but we can save that for another time.
Yeah. So, well, it really has been wonderful.
Yes.
To be with you. Thank you so much for being here. I just have really appreciated the conversation, the exploration of the perspectives of the individuals that you employ, and those that you help to, send out to all these different healthcare organizations of all different types, and just really appreciate the work you're doing. And thank you again for surveying those individuals to kind of give us some insight.
Yes, Matthew, thank you. It's been great working, and we want to thank you for collaborating with us because we said we want to do this a little differently. We really appreciate you engaging your team so we could bring their perspective to the show today. And we just wish you the best. And we know this is a journey, and we think you're bringing some fresh perspectives and some fresh eyes into it. And we think that's really important. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much to both of you as well. I really appreciate you guys having me, and you guys opened up my eyes to a lot of new perspectives too. And I appreciate that. And that's what it's all about. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yes, you're very welcome.
All right.
And for our listeners out there, it's a wrap to another episode of Healthcare's Missing Logic. And please stay safe and healthy, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye-bye. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast, now a top-rated podcast for healthcare leaders. Please share this podcast with other healthcare leaders and anyone else you think would benefit. We are certain that if you found value in it, they will too. If you haven't already done so, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any episodes. And also, it would mean the world to us if you took a quick moment to leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast player. It helps to get the word out about our podcast and incredible guests. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to watch our podcasts. You can also follow us on our Missing Logic social media channels, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Until next time.